think there's anything that has changed more profoundly than careers. The way people look at their careers, the expectations behind, our careers. Would you agree with me on that count? How drastically things have changed? So we're going to talk a little bit about some of those tectonic changes that have happened, in careers, and maybe what that means to us as human resources professionals, and what it should mean, to the leaders of our organizations. I think back to a conversation I had many, many years ago when I was working at EMC. We had a talent management conference back at the headquarters of that company. Now, some of you know EMC's headquarters is in Hopkinton, Massachusetts. That's where the Boston Marathon begins. And we went back to that headquarters building to have a conference and to really talk about the state of talent management for the company. And while we were there, we had a lot of access to some of the senior leaders of the company. And one of the things that I remember very distinctly is the executive vice president of services was asked by one of the HR business partners, what is top of mind this year for Joe Tucci, who was that company's CEO? And most of us who were in the room expected him to say something like, oh, well, something around business strategy, or the competitive threats, or the acquired companies, because we were still trying to integrate a lot of software businesses that had been acquired into the larger business. But he didn't say any of that. This executive vice president referred to a conversation he had had with Joe Tucci earlier that week. And he said, we were walking into the headquarters building at EMC, which is building 176. Before they entered the building, Joe turned to him and said, do you want to know what keeps me up at night? Now this EVP, astutely observed that Joe really wasn't looking to an answer, for him to answer that question. So he just listened. And Joe turned and pointed at the parking lot, all the cars in the parking lot. He says, what I worry about is all of these talented people are going to walk away, find better jobs, and leave us scrambling in this business. I thought that was a very candid moment, on the part of a CEO, and that concern is shared by many of the top executives that I work with as they consider their business, their growth, the challenges, and how important that people are in that equation to making them successful. So today, we're going to get into a little bit about where, the career crossroads are, where the business needs meet the needs of people, and talk about some of the changes that have happened. And I hope we can have a discussion about this, about what's top of mind for you, what are the biggest challenges you are seeing in your organizations, and what are some of the strategies and tools we can look to help make a difference for our workforce. I like this definition of career development, and this comes from Blessing White. They basically tag it as career development is about getting people to where they want to be and where the organization needs them to be. So I think at the simplest core, you've got the intersection between organizational needs and the needs and the aspirations of the workforce. So let me ask you this question. Where have we traditionally about talent retention? It doesn't matter what we do in talent management, compensation, benefits, perks, all the stuff that we see happening. We can have the greatest programs known to man, but if our managers are not having the conversation with their employees to figure out what that meaningful and interesting work looks like, we're going to lose them. Next step is going to be for them. Now, I'll share some data points from my own life, just as an illustration of how dynamic this really is. I worked 5 years ago at a company across the bay as an internal talent management consultant. And for a time at that organization, I had 13 recent college graduates that reported to me. Now, these are people that were hired out of the best schools, right? We're talking about Duke, UCLA, Yale, Stanford, some of the best universities in the country. So these were bright, highly motivated, exceptionally intelligent people. And it was the company's desire to keep them fully engaged and to really harness that intelligence, for the business over a long period of time. Now, some of you know that if you're dealing with millennials and Gen Z, you're doing well if you can keep, 50% of them in your organization 3 years down the road. So it's not an insignificant challenge, to many businesses. Now, of the 13 that I managed back in 2010, I left that organization a couple years later, but I kept my fingers on where these individuals were going in their careers. This is what I found. There's only 2 that are still working at that company 5 years later, 2 of the 13. 12 of the 13 have worked for 2 or more organizations in that time. 6 of the 13 have worked for 3 or more organizations in 5 years. So when you think about that, that's a pretty dynamic, emergent, fluid career. And 10 of the 13, this is the part that startled me the most, have actually changed industry. So this is really fascinating when we think about this new reality that we are confronted with as human resources professionals. That's a microcosm of what's happening, with a lot of the younger workers that are coming into our organizations. How do we bring order to this? How do we bring sense to that? How can we help channel their ambitions, their drive, and their aspirations, and tie it more closely to the mission and the needs of the organization? That really becomes, the holy grail of career management today. Turnover trends, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because all of you have your trusted sources and we've all probably seen a lot of the data, but I think no matter which source you confront, it's always looking like in the recent years it's trending up. After the Great Recession, we had that dip. Voluntary and involuntary turnover both have been trending up in recent years. And rather than focusing on the number, which a lot of companies do, I think what's more important is to discover the reasons why people embark on a career move, particularly that voluntary attrition. So if you look at all industries, it varies by industry, but definitely the trend lines are up in the last 4 or 5 years. Now, there are so many factors that factor into attrition, right, turnover, that we could go on for hours just talking about the various factors and the relative weightings of those factors. I'm a simple-minded guy, so I like to there's so much that sometimes, managers get overwhelmed with just in the onboarding process. We're talking about the basic onboarding, like where are the restrooms, what are the benefits, what are the compliance, agreements and training that they take. There's so much of that stuff that sometimes we neglect the touch point, how the matrix really operates, in the context of their job, and what, do they need to know about the other team members, the people they're going to be dealing with. There's so much we sometimes forget to mention about that. I found there's like 3 things that are helpful. Business context, many of you have spoken to this. That's really essential for a Holly hotshot. We have to get them the full business context as fast as we can, right? So they don't alienate people, they don't, offend team members, that they can be productive in how they channel their ambitions to get on the scoreboard. I think also they need very rapid discovery of their skill gaps. And sometimes these are things that are not appearing in the job description, right? Like how to mediate conflicts. Sometimes that is not a part of a job description, but it's something that somebody has to do every day. We'll talk to the veterans, get them acquainted, with the people who are really good at that, and have some mentoring interactions, to that end, if it's necessary for their success. And the third thing would be they have to get out of the mindset. This is a real shift that they have to make. They have to get out of the mindset of being independently successful. And we somehow have to move them to the mindset of being interdependently successful. And I think, when you get to healthy outcomes, this is what I see in the healthiest organizations. This is really kind of summing it up. In the healthy workplaces, you've got employees who are taking ownership for their careers. They actually know that they're in charge. They have to vocalize that. They have to, initiate stretch learning, growth assignments. Managers are supporting them, but not owning them. Managers are a thought partner to them. And then HR creates an infrastructure so that people can do explorations. They can do job shares or job shadowing or things like that, where people can get exposure to different slices of the business. The managers have to be active partners with employees in their career growth at the same level that they are for performance management, promotions, all the other stuff. And that's what I see lacking in a lot of organizations. What I love about learning goals, though, is those are safe. Like, they're not going to be bonus stuff. You can tell them flat out as a manager, hey, look, this has nothing to do with your bonus, but it has everything to do with your personal enjoyment, job satisfaction, and really getting recognition for a big problem solved. That makes it safe. They can go out and fail without getting penalized for that, but it also keeps your your organization innovating, moving out. That's really good. I like that. Orchestration of work beyond the immediate comfort zone as the individual. You don't want to get them so far out that they get frustrated. Like, I didn't sign up for this. This is not part of my job. You want to get them into a place where it's still relevant, but maybe adjacent, right? It could be a task assignment. It could be something where they represent the group, at a higher level with stakeholders in the organization. Yes. All of us care about outcomes. We all care about turnover. We all care about keeping our best employees for as long as we can, because they're going to contribute to your organization and make you successful. So that's what the essence or the outcome of the conversation should be. Is it effective? Is it keeping the turnover down? Is it keeping employee engagement up? And I love the way Jeff kind of isolated that this morning in the leadership equation, right? Where sometimes we don't measure the right things. I think that's the aspiration we want to see coming out of those conversations. So today, I'm gonna introduce to you 4 challenging employee situations that I have seen personally. Would love to compare notes with you about what your most challenging cases are. And these are hindrances in the manager's ability to have successful career dialogue, right? So just before I get into my 4 situations, how many of you see some barriers to the managers? Like, why don't they engage their employees in career conversations? I want to hear a couple of shout outs about why they don't do that. Okay, don't have time. Sometimes it's a time thing. What did you say? So they're pressed in so many fronts and measured in so many other things that it kind of goes back burner by default. Okay.
They've never been trained how to do it.
Here's another big one. They've never been trained or taught how. Right? How do we have a career conversation versus a goal setting or a coaching conversation or other things? A lot of people don't know how. What else? Please.
Fearful that they're going to take over their job.
Yeah, now here's another thing that sometimes is beneath the surface, right, at the subconscious level. Well, if they're gunning for my position and they're really smart, how much more tenure do I have as a leader in this company if I really actively support them in that way? So I think that is a fear for some leaders for sure. It's definitely there. What else?
Other managers believe that success is what I do, they need success, so you're wrong.
Yeah, success from the C-level exec or the vice president level gets driven downwards. Like, this is what success looks like versus us asking them. And you had a couple more comments back here. I want to hear a couple more. Please.
I don't think it happens to them because they managers, so they don't think it's important.
Yeah, they don't get that sense of urgency or importance from the rest of the organization. Do you have one more comment? I heard a comment there.
I said they want to hoard talent. They don't want to lose it elsewhere in the organization.
Isn't that fascinating when you see those kinds of leaders? Many of them also come to me and say, well, I've got challenging employees. And let's just use the word challenging. And there's some individuals that it's not easy to have a career conversation with. Holly Hotshot. This is the person who's fresh out of college or new on the scene, something to prove. They want to skyrocket really quickly, get on the corporate radar of results. And there's some challenges around that sometimes. People who are new in their career, just starting out. What about this one? Have you seen that one? Complacent, Corey complacent. So this is the person who is in cruise control, staying beneath the radar, content to do their job, but not much else. You don't get a lot of discretionary effort, out of those individuals. Here's another one. Silicon Valley, this is big, isn't it? Genius. The person who has a lot of depth, subject matter expert, the go-to person for a lot of things. How do you have a productive career conversation with someone like that? And then my personal favorite, entitlement in. Right? This is the worker that expects the promotion, expects the rewards and recognition, kind of hands always out, right, to the organization. In 5 years, only 15% of that knowledge will still be relevant. Isn't that staggering? That's how fast things are changing for the world, for our profession in HR, and also for every other job and discipline that's out there. So that kind of ignites the fire under me to say, wow, how do I stay relevant? What do I need to be learning on a daily basis so that I can not be left behind on that? I think the number one thing is we have to shift the frame away from what they say they want. They say they want more money. They say they want the promotion. They're asking for something hands out. And shift the frame back to what we know is important, that Blessing White pegged in their survey. These individuals want meaningful work. They want to make an impact. So let's not limit ourselves to a job or a particular financial reward when we have that conversation. I'm surprised at how few managers know this. This is like my number one tool here. Your promotion, which you say you want and you say you deserve, is a function of two things. It's a function of your personal readiness, and it's also a function of organizational need. So this is an equation, and I write it out for them and say, promotion equals personal readiness plus organizational need. And I'm pretty honest with them as a manager. And I say, I can help you with the personal readiness. I want to make sure that you are personally ready and that I can recommend you, for the promotion, for that next step. But I can't guarantee that the business need is going to show up this year or next year.